Hello YouTube and welcome to GrunfWorks Plays KSP. This is episode 32 of our Interplanetary Voyage. And today we will be starting off with our Karborundrum collector. Now, the goal of our Karborundrum collector is of course to go to the low sun orbit and collect Karborundrum. Now, it has been en route for some time and it has finally arrived to the low sun orbit, which is roughly equal to MOHO, roughly. So we have only need to actually circularize to stay at that altitude, which is roughly 5,300 million meters above the sun's surface. So I am using the flight computer from the remote tech to make sure that that happens. So holding maneuver prograde, and then we will be executing maneuver, and that is supposed to be happening in 1 day roughly. Correction, that's supposed to be happening roughly within the next 2 minutes. Yeah, wonders of the time acceleration. What can you do? Anyway, we are, as you can see, I have clearly over-engineered the amount of carborundrum that I need for the fuel, so I have actually taken too much with me back. I could have left much more in the orbit, but then again I wouldn't know how does this translate. So one of these 4, tanks gives us roughly 85,000 delta V for this craft, which is, for the lack of the better word, amazing. So yeah, I'm sorry for a little bit of wobble. I mean, this engine has high thrust gimbaling, so yeah, this is something to be considered for our future designs, but now we have to use what we have at our disposal. And so far, the moment we circularize, we will be thinking about opening our solar collector and gathering that sweet carborundrum. Let us remind that this is definitely the fuel of the future, which we plan and we have already tested it. It works beautifully, so we will be using that to power most of our ships that are going interplanetary, as it is great ISP and very decent thrust, so yes. If you haven't checked my previous episodes where I use carborundrum, I urge you to take a look. I have had a carborundrum powered SSTO and carborundrum powered I believe another ship or so, and there are more vehicles that would be carborundrum powered coming, that's for sure. One of them even in this episode. Okay, not to have too many spoilers, so let's see, our apoapses and periapses look pretty well. So only thing that I need to be doing is actually to deploy our particle collector and start collecting the carborundrum. So, given that we are playing with time delay, of course, and the time delay is being 42 seconds, if my reading is not wrong, that means that it takes some time between me sending a command and the craft executing it. Because, yeah, we are like not half of the solar system away, but 1/3 of the solar system away. Okay, now the carborundrum collector is deployed, and we need to start collecting carborundrum. So, advanced particle collector, open carborundrum collector. That's supposed to happen in roughly 20 seconds. Alright, and the spice is flowing. Ooh, sorry, wrong reference. But anyway, carborundrum, we are collecting carborundrum, so at some point this will be full and then we need to plan our return back to Kerbin. So I was thinking to take it roughly somewhere along our ascending node, or descending node, whichever what that one is. And now let's see where can we get, and this actually is a quite simple ejection because it's like going from Kerbin to Moon. It's roughly the same because we are equatorial to the Sun, so yeah. So now let's just try and get a nice encounter, good, and then we just tweak at which point at the solar orbit we'll be taking it. So something like this, more likely. And yep, there's our Kerbin encounter. Let's see what it looks like. We can tweak it by taking it a little bit sooner or later. Seems like later is the better choice. Yeah, so something along these lines. Great. This would take it to the area where we have our satellites, and then it's easy peasy maneuvering. Great. And that's supposed to be happening in 89 days, and by that time I fully expect that this Karborundrum will be fully filled. Okay, moving onwards, we are going now to our Jool space dock. As I highlighted in the previous episode, we have a correction burn because, well, I goofed up the initial burn, because my game crashed mid-initial burn. Also, second thing which I have done off camera, I have frozen the other Kerbals, so they are officially Kerbal popsicles, and we have Gregkin who is piloting the ship, so he will be awake during the whole duration. Sorry, Gregkin, but that's your karma. Okay, the goal with this one is to get it to the orbit of Lathe and dock with our current, I believe, Lathe space dock, or whatever we have there, or communication dish, I don't remember exactly. We have two stations around Lane, one in high orbit, which I believe is the main communications relay, and one in the low orbit, for which we have already sent the lander ships, or landing impactors, so to say. So, and this one will be docking to that station mainly. And then we will be using our SSTOs, hopefully, to actually find a suitable location and deploy a rover to mark the site of our future Lathe base, hopefully. Okay, our maneuver node is set. We have 587 meters per second to burn. And we have a total of, I believe, 12 nervous burning. So, and as of some of my commenters noted out, they are all glowing pink rather than glowing green, but, well, what can you do? I cannot explain why the red glow, but I still do like it. It's a nice glowing effect, so yeah. By the way, guys, if anybody knows why this nervous should be glowing pink, please post it in the comments below. I would really be interested about a scientific explanation of it. As you can see, a nice big red or pink red-ish fireball at the back. So, by the way, guys, this is actually a longer burn, so I am rather accelerating it at roughly 4 times video acceleration, because I didn't want to bore you too long with too long of a burns, but, you know, I'm trying to balance it out, so that you feel it's a little bit longer burn, but it's not too long where you go, oh my god, this guy does nothing but post his burns, who cares about that shit? Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, Gregkin is bouncing around the capsule, which don't think it would be scientifically accurate, because these nervous I believe, don't produce any, like, thrust, or in terms of expelling things, but more like, you know, radiating particles. And our two SSTOs. By the way, guys, I just wanted to let you know, in the next episode of Kerbal Engineering, that should be airing soon, you will be seeing how I attached and folded everything together to form this bad boy. In the previous episode that I've aired like last Monday, you will be able to see how I balanced and designed the SSTOs. And I try to test most of the things, but I don't test everything, because otherwise if you test everything then it's just boring business as usual. And if you don't test everything, then Kerbal things can happen. So I'm not saying that necessarily that they will happen, but they could. Okay, and we are fixing our approach ever so gently. Let's put it roughly in the lathe ballpark. Okay, and I have no idea why my maneuver node is going like this and my Kerbal alarm clock is going berserk. But that caused me in the Interplanetary Voyage Series 1 playthrough to actually miss some of the encounters. So I have learned my lesson since, so I will be actually plopping down a maneuver node just to keep a placeholder when this should happen. Let's put a maneuver. Jool space dock. Yeah, looks solid. Okay. That concludes the Jool business. And now we need to be focusing on another craft. And as you can see in my Kerbal construction time, I am engineering a small Duna Pioneer base that will be shipping off to Duna when the transfer window to Duna comes in roughly 204 days, or thereabout. And that one should be landing at the site where our carbonite collector is at the moment, and some of our Kerbals. I don't exactly recall which ones, but a few of them we have on the surface already with the deployed science rover. Okay, by the way, guys, I'm actually a little bit short on staff, so I'm hiring a couple of engineers and scientists. By the way, if you want your name in the save, please let me know in the comments below. As always, I'm recruiting, because most of my Kerbals get on missions, and yeah, some of them will leave stranded, some of them die horrible death, but that's, I guess, how the random my capability generator can handle it. That thing out of the box, and talking about my ability to handle stuff, we are rolling out our Duna Rescue Lander to fix the things that I have messed up in one of my previous and save. Chuck Kerman, Ikrit Kerman, and Wilhuff Tarkin Kerman, who are all of them being my subscribers. So yeah, I have got them marooned on Duna basically. So this is a rescue mission, and hopefully they should be also joining either the Duna Orbital Station or the Duna base. That's something that we will be figuring out as we go. So, and who will be piloting? I think I'll actually take Halri Kerman. He is an experienced pilot and he knows how to fly. So we have, as you can see, we have one command pod with 3 seats and 2 cryo tanks. And this is the Rescue Lander, and guys, I will be posting the Kerbal Engineering episodes because they seem to be quite popular, so I will be posting the episode on how I've built this bad boy. However, this one has built before we had our surface Karborundrum deployment system, so I figured this one will actually go first to the orbit and rendezvous with our refueling station to load up on the Karborundrum, after which it will proceed to Duna. So, finding a good angle, kicking the engines and releasing the clamps. We have cleared the tower and our takeoff seems to be going rather well. I just love the thunder of the rhinos. And we have another engine, which I'm not exactly sure which one format it is. This craft consists of multiple stages, but the three main ones are the Rescue Lander, then the stage that's supposed to get me to the orbital station, and then the ascent stage that's supposed to take me to the orbit, as you can see, I assume. Okay, we are soon enough approaching our first stage separation. As soon as we suck these liquid tanks dry, we have roughly 400 meters per second to go, and I'm showing this at roughly 2 times accelerated because you don't need to, sit and wait while I had also some frame rate issues. I was running this at 17 frames per second, which I think it's actually pretty decent given the craft complexity and all that jazz and the amount of mods that I'm running. So, yeah. Okay, we have successfully separated the first stage, and now, as you can see, I don't have exactly maneuver node set up yet, and I don't know if I'll have one because my goal is to get roughly to 100 kilometer apoapsis, after which I will be trying to get a rendezvous with the station right from the launch. And as you can see, we have target at 2.9 kilometers in 3 minutes and 4 seconds. So for those of you that might be asking which mod that I'm using here, it's better burn time. And I'm playing this as an KSP 1.1.3, not 1.2, because when I started 1.2 was out, it just came out, but the amount of mods that I have, it would take like almost, 2-3 months until everything gets updated, and I didn't want to wait that long because I was playing KSP Interplanetary Voyage with Season 1 in 090 for a considerable amount of time, and I had memory issues and all that jazz, so it has become literally unplayable for me. So that's the reasoning why I'm still running with 1.1.3, and I don't consider to be doing switch to 1.2 at any time during the Season 2. Maybe for the Season 3, who knows. Okay, we are roughly, compared to the target, at 800 meters per second, so I want to squeeze every ounce of the delta V, which we have more than enough of 1000 delta V on the ascent stage, to get as close to the target as possible. And our target encounter is roughly 2 kilometers in 114 seconds. Or was it 1 kilometer? I cannot read actually that well. Oh, 2.9, sorry. But we are slowly but surely decelerating our target relative to the target. We don't need to worry about it that much because we have a very high thrust to weight, roughly 3.55. So that should be more than enough to actually propel us to whichever speed we need to. However, the moment we stage and ditch the ascent stage, then we have significantly less thrust to weight, so we have to be careful about that one. So that's why I want to use as much of this rocket as possible to actually secure us a target, let's say velocity, and a rendezvous with roughly maybe, 50 to 100 meters per second tops. Hallery looks excited, and why shouldn't he be? He will be going to Duna in a brand new ship. By the way, this ship is powered by Karborundrum, and it is also warp capable. So the reason for me using warp technology, I said that I'll try not to overdo it. So far I have been enjoying with it a little bit, but it comes with associated costs. You have to really have high delta V in your lander, because the moment you arrive still at Duna, you will have to burn a very, very significant amount due to the Newton's law of the preservation of, I believe, velocity or motion. Not exactly sure which one though. However, yeah, so kudos for Roverdude for implementing it. I actually think it's a fair trade-off. That's why I had to engineer this craft to have roughly 18,000 delta V once when loaded with Karborundrum. So, okay, we are roughly 124 meters per second relative to the target. So, now 100 meters per second. Let's stage. I just love that nice burn of the ullage motors, which will actually return that rocket on the suborbital trajectory, where it will crash unceremoniously back into the atmosphere. 15 kilometers out, and we are 95 meters per second relative to the target. As you can see, now our thrust to weight is 0.30. It's enough, but we need to make sure that we gradually decrease our relative velocity to the target. And I'm using the nav ball to keep my retrograde marker lined up with the retrograde marker of the target. So basically the pink and yellow aligned. I'm also keeping an eye on my relative target velocity. I don't want it dipping below 10 meters per second, because at that time we might get, we might start pulling away, or it will take too long for us to secure a rendezvous. So you want to have a good target relative velocity, but not too low. And I feel like 50-60 meters per second for 8 kilometers is a good ballpark. We have opened our shielded docking port. Small burns just to keep the two vectors lined up, and our approach is currently 0.9 in 100 seconds. So far looking very good, and we have a total of 527 meters per second delta V, so I'm not overly concerned in terms of making sure that we have enough. In theory, I could have refueled this lander at Kerbin, but I prefer to reserve my Karborundrum for mainly spaceplanes and SSTOs, because it's not the easiest system getting it on the surface, so that's why I prefer to actually use it where it matters. And my further plan for Karborundrum usage, once we actually get our Karborundrum collector to return, is to be sending out a craft with multiple Karborundrum collectors and having them as refueling stations in the orbits of maybe Duna, Lathe, Eve, who knows. Okay, I'm popping up my docking port alignment indicator. This is a mod by Navyfish, an excellent one at that. And now I'm selecting any docking port, because I want to align with the station as such, and we will be selecting the real docking port just moments before docking. We are 7 meters per second relative to the target. Okay, let's go at 4 meters per second, and I believe I usually decelerate up to 0 meters per second, and then I start or initiate my docking approach. We are 340 meters away from the station. Time to flip around and start the docking procedure. So, the docking procedures are also rather easy for me because I balance this craft using the RCS build aid and the VAB. Okay, so as you can see, first we want to align the orange reticule in the middle and also the orange peep on the top, because that would give me up is up, left is left, right is right controls for this craft. And that means that we are exactly aligned with the docking port in terms of rotation. The moment I have these two aligned, then I want to be placing the green crosshairs smack in the center, because that means that we would be also aligned translation-wise with the docking port we wish to dock. And using the yellow pip to move it up or left in this case, just to ensure that that we do get the green reticule to move. So it's basically we are translating now rather than rotating. I really like this mod. It's very easy and very intuitive once you get the hang of it. Okay, and soon enough I want to be selecting my docking port. And I plan to go on the bottom docking port, guys, because these ports above are mostly used for the docking of the tanks. Ships are supposed to be docking on the bottom component of this refueling station, so yeah. The moment I have it available, yeah, okay. I believe it's this docking port, because this looks like I'm perfectly aligned with it. Okay, and yeah. So as you can see, it's always important that the yellow reticule is positioned so that it pushes the green lines back to the center. Think of it from that perspective, and then it's easy to remember how it works. As long as your orange reticule and orange peep are aligned, that basically means that you have to push. And as long as the yellow reticule in the, well, roughly center looks like a prograde marker, that means that you're going towards the docking port. If it looks like a retrograde, that means you're pulling away from it. Okay. You don't need to be perfectly positioned, but it makes your life easier if you are. So that's where you can see me like struggling to get it a little bit better aligned. Ultimately, when you rotate, you want to rotate without using the RCS, because that doesn't affect your translation, so only using SAS, and then translate using the RCS. But if you already have experience, then you can work with RCS as well. And it makes turning much easier. Okay, we are coming up on our refueling station, which looks rather majestic. By the way, guys, if you're interested to see how is this one being built, I have a video series on this for the Kerbal engineering. It's a subset of Kerbal engineering, how to design, and where I cover everything from the initial design, drawing how I want it designed, then assembling it in the, I believe, spaceplane hangar, and then testing it, and then flying, breaking into launchable components and flying and assembling it. So I recommend you do check it out. I will put a link at the end of the video. On the end screen you will get a link to that playlist. Okay, we are 5 meters from the docking port. And decelerating our relative velocity and docked. That's it. As simple as that. Okay, so I realized that in my previous episodes I had Karborundrum fuel bouncing back and forth, and this was due to another feature that I didn't know about, which Rover implemented in his tanks, and that's the warehouse, meaning that the fuel is shared equally among all containers that could contain it within a certain range. So I'm rather now disabling the warehouse, because I want to be transferring Karborundrum fuel from these big tanks into the little tanks that we have for the lander. So that's the reason why I'm disabling the warehouse. And I want to disable on all of the tanks. Right. Once this is done, let's pull up. I use a tech fuel balancer for transferring. I find this to be very intuitive and easy, especially when you have multiple tanks such as this. So I'm transferring all the Karborundrum into the small 1.25 meter tanks. And at the point when I'm done, which is roughly now, I will be wrapping up for this episode. The journey to Duna for Halry and its lander will be coming in the next episode, and for some reason my orbital station is tilting. Okay, you know what? Yeah. Before I wrap up this episode, I'm gonna tell our piloting system to hold normal prograde. I think that would be the best. Okay, guys. Like I said, there will be more coming in the next episode, and specifically meaning on the Duna Rescue mission going towards Duna. And hopefully getting there, burning there, and then maybe landing there, and who knows, hopefully rescuing. So thank you very much for watching. This is GrunfWorks signing off.